Today on CityCast Denver, Colorado has legalized cannabis and decriminalized psychedelics. Could prostitution be next? Me, producer Paul Caroli, and a special guest dig into both sides of the sex work legalization argument, plus discuss a bougie grocery store possibly landing in RiNo, a report that Denver could be breaking up with Flock, and more news of the week. Today is Wednesday, February 18th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Hey, Paul.
Hey, good morning, Bree.
Good morning, and joining us to look into some recent stories is my friend, poet, author, educator, former CityCast Denver guest, Susie Q. Smith. Hi.
Hi. It's good to see you this morning.
Good to see you, too. What are we starting with today, Paul? We're starting with probably one of the hottest topics for this show, for sure, and this
Lately,
city.
definitely.
Flock. The surveillance cameras that the city uses to track license plates. What's up with Flock?
So for folks who have been following this, they'll know that the mayor has been contracting with this company based out of Georgia called Flock that has been slowly growing across the whole country, offering these surveillance cameras, license plate readers, basically, to cities to help them fight crime. And that's why the mayor says he likes it. And he's been doing these limited test pilot contracts at such a dollar amount that it doesn't need city council approval, which he's doing because they would absolutely not be approving. All of city council is against this right now, and growing calls from progressives across the city are against this because Flock has had these complaints about is the data being shared with federal immigration enforcement? And then there's people who are just like against surveillance in general. Of course, the mayor's been defending this consistently. What we knew most recently was that his contract, the extension that he signed a few months ago, was going to last until the end of March. Now, thanks to our friends at 9 News, we know that the city of Denver has put out a request for proposals for, now it sounds very generic in this document, but they just say a license plate reader camera company. But if you read between the lines, what that means is a replacement for Flock. Or, and no one I see is chatting about this, this is my personal perspective, or the city is trying to drum up a competition to try to get more favorable terms out of whoever they are going to contract with. But that's the news.
This is interesting to me. I honestly forgot for a moment that we were that the mayor was presenting this as a trial period with Flock, like that this has not been a permanent thing. But then you also reminded me that city council has been opposed to this from the jump. So I
don't know if they were all against it at the beginning, but they definitely got there. The more we learned about Flock, the more, like, I think there was some reporting from Newsline that was like, there was like 1,400 searches in the Flock database across the country that tapped Denver's data. I mean, of course, the mayor has since he's asked Flock to remove Denver's data from the national database. So presumably, like, ICE won't have access to it is his hope, because he has understood this concern and he says he's acted on it. But I know that people don't trust that, and people are just like really upset about it and want the whole thing to stop. But
yeah.
We'll see. This is going to be an interesting opportunity to talk about what people actually are mad about around this Flock thing. Is it surveillance? Is it this company? What is it?
Can you tell me more, Paul, about city council's role in the new contract? How big is that new bid that they're putting out, and will city council have to approve it?
I don't know. I don't know right now. I don't know if the request for proposals is about a specific dollar amount. So, I mean, yeah, I think if it's above $500,000, they would have to approve it. And if not, the mayor would just be able to sign up for another round.
I think just thinking about this from the perspective of like, we don't know. There's so much unknown about where our data goes. I think this is something that humanity has learned over the last 20 years is nothing seems to be safe, no matter who's collecting that data. So I can see where maybe folks that are opposed to surveillance in general are seeing this as like, just, new coat on the same thing, like it's just the exact same thing, just a different company. So I think we would need to see more information on who these other companies that might pop up be, what they're affiliated with, what they do with their data. But overall, it does sound like it's just a new version of something that folks that are already opposed to surveillance are probably still going to be opposed to.
And I think
Yeah,
about
I mean,
all the ways
maybe.
we could spend that money that might actually benefit the people in this city. And I feel like maybe that's not the way to do it. I'm also just wondering, okay, and maybe this will tell you a little bit about how I think, but I drive around a lot and I see a vehicle almost every day that is driving sans license plate, okay? What we might call riding dirty pretty regularly. This is not brand new. And I think that if I were a person who was preparing to commit a crime, as these cameras are meant to prevent, I feel like I would take my license plates off or swap them with another similar vehicle, right? Like, I feel like that's kind of
Mhm.
basic math. And I feel like that's been known to people who are about doing crime for for many generations now. So I'm just like, how much is this really being used to solve crimes? And how much is it being used to oppress people? And these are the questions that it leaves me wrestling with.
Well, the mayor says that the flock system has led to hundreds of arrests and recovered stolen vehicles, according to the Denver Post.
Hmm.
That's the benefit that we're getting for this contract, according to him.
Hmm.
I think what Bree you're talking about is very interesting. These other companies that we could be contracting with, because when I see complaints against a company like Flock that's offering a service that people are getting increasingly upset about, I'm like, where is the license plate reader company that's whole brand is about data security? That's an opportunity in the marketplace for someone to come up here and make mega bank off all these cities, because Denver's not the only one pushing back on it. I mean, basically every suburb, Longmont, there was this huge meeting where hundreds of people showed up. I read
Yeah.
about this city in Mississippi that just canceled their flock contract. Like, if there was a company that had a brand, maybe, a data security branded signal, I don't know, would come forward and be like, hey, check out us, we can do that crime stopping stuff, but you don't have to worry about your data. It's all
But our
safe.
database is encrypted, and
Yeah,
although I
you can imagine how they would do it. It's not a
yes.
stretch. There's more news we should talk about. So this is just a rumor. I was not able to confirm this, but the super ritzy, I know it is like a LA Hollywood celebrity grocery store, Erewhon.
Mm.
They are apparently, there's a photo of a fence in RiNo right now, and there's a banner that says Erewhon coming soon. It's on that like iMac building across from Denver Central Market. Like I said, I can't confirm it. I haven't heard from the company. We do know Erewhon says they're expanding to Denver, but it could be imminent that this fancy grocery store is going to open in RiNo soon.
I
You know about this
mean,
place, Erewhon, Susie?
I do, and I did see something on social media about it's coming to Denver, and I think at this point it's already, I think there's a certain model. So I'm not surprised by anything. There's a certain model for gentrification, and I feel like it does include Erewhon. And as you go from one city to another, you kind of see what the model is. And I know Denver's been a big part of the model that people follow. Like, you get into a certain neighborhood and you go, okay, where's the pickleball? Because it's there. Like, it's it's around the corner. Like, there will be some form of an organic coffee shop, winery, microbrewery in easy walking distance. Like, there are certain things that are. So I think this is not a shock. I think I still have so many questions around, as Denver continues to shift and grow and contract in some ways. I always have these questions around, like, who is this for? And who's it benefiting? What's it
It's for people that
costing?
can afford a $21 smoothie or want to drink
Right.
the smoothie Hailey Bieber's drinking.
And I feel like there is that population here in the city.
Definitely.
Um, and I also wonder, what does it cost us to welcome them? What does it cost us to cater to this? And who's benefiting, right? Maybe I think that I think there are so many people in the city who could make a wonderful $21 smoothie. There on the corner, some street vendors. I'd love to support them, right? I'm personally not going to spend 20. I'm going to make my own smoothie. But I
Is
I
it
was
going
think
to
gonna
have
say,
that
I
sea
know you, and
moss in it?
you make very
I,
delicious looking smoothies.
I do make pretty solid smoothies. So those are things to think about. But I'm wondering, like, again, who is this for? What is it for? And I think, there was a few years ago, and I went to LA for something, and I remember, like, looking around and just sort of like sucking my teeth teeth at things. And I was like, why am I so annoyed at LA this time? Like normally I have a very pleasant time here. And this time I was there and I was just like, ugh, 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 and finding myself just so annoyed. And then I realized like, oh, this is where I am, this is the model that they brought to Denver. And I think specifically RiNo in that area of development. It's like, oh, they've taken these parts of LA and tried to replicate them in Denver. And so what I'm annoyed about is some of this styling and some of this modeling that feels imposed and false to me. And I feel like in some ways this could be more of that, but it's for someone. And I wonder, like, what are the ways that we can serve the needs of the collective in a way that is beneficial to everyone? And that's part of my question.
I mean, I think this kind of grocery store is not for that at all. You know what I mean? Like, this is a visually appealing place to participate in a certain level of capitalism. It's not functioning as like solving a food desert problem. You know what I mean? It's more of a what I thought about when I saw this was how I felt when an axe throwing bar opened up on Colfax. And I thought, if I could go back in time 20 years and tell someone walking down Colfax, you're not going to believe this. Someone's going to open a bar here where you can throw axes at things. And this is not like the guy outside on Colfax doing it. You're going to pay to do it. Like someone would laugh in your face. Exactly. And that's kind of how I thought about with this Erewhon thing. I was like, 20 years ago, come up to someone in this neighborhood and tell them this. And they would be like, what? Like, because to me, this is a 20 years ago Cherry Creek style. Yeah. This is where you would see Erewhon is Cherry Creek. So I mean, we've been watching this neighborhood change, including its name, 5 Points, for a long time. And I think I feel like there's just a lot of like, well, it was inevitable, or I guess why wouldn't Erewhon want to be here? Right. I mean,
it's, and keep in mind, it is still 5 points when crime is being reported. So 5 points still exists, Yeah,
it's very
anything negative. And then RiNo gets incredibly big when they want it to be as well. I remember hearing someone refer to 28th and Franklin as RiNo, and I went, oh wow, we're really stretching the scope of what this neighborhood is, which is essentially, this is marketing language made up by realtors, and it's just being used in all kinds. So I think that's part of my question. Like when I think of RiNo, like it is sort of this manufactured place that's not real for people who enjoy that sort of thing. So it's not a shock. But what I would love to see is if this grocery store does come and if it is built, I want a lot of renegade street vendors to show up and quietly sell tamales in the parking lot.
I'm also thinking about, Paul, remember it was a couple years ago before Casa Bonita had reopened, and I feel like, oh no, it was Meow Wolf. Someone had put a sign on the corner of like 38th and Irving.
I had the same thought. It was like a prank. It
was a prank.
Casa Bonita to go or something, or Casa Bonita Express.
Or Meow Wolf coming here or something. And I thought, this feels like it could also be that.
Definitely. This could be a prankster. It could be the same prankster. I mean, for all we know, someone who just has the tool to print up one of these signs and drive people crazy for a week.
And drive people crazy. I mean, drove me crazy a little bit seeing it.
Yeah, I definitely saw it on social media, and people were already having so many conversations, and some people very celebrating, right? Like this is, and because Denver is such a transplant city, a lot of times people want to recreate the things they're familiar with and the things that they enjoy from home. And so that's part of the experience. I don't imagine myself shopping there personally.
And we'll see what happens, even if this thing is real or not, I think is really the question. Okay, let's jump on to another story. This was, we're in the midst of the legislative session. There's some really interesting bills, as usual, coming through. There's one that's looking at well, actually, this is where the language is really important, I think. Legalizing sex work. Paul, can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, I think we're still early in the session. I think we're at the point where we're getting the weird stuff, off the wall ideas. We're going to get to the part where we fight about the real, big ticket items in a couple of months. But this is a bill from State Senators Nick Hinrichsen and Lisa Cutter and State Representatives Lorena Garcia and Rebecca Stewart. This new bill would decriminalize, quote, commercial sexual activity among consenting adults. Now, this is important because it's not how the two other states who have similar laws do it, but this bill would do it for both people who buy sex and those who would sell it.
Interesting. I mean, okay. So in some places, is it like legal to sell it but not buy it?
Yes. In Maine.
Okay.
In Maine, you can sell it but not buy it, which some of the sponsors of this new bill here say it makes it, it puts the sex workers in sometimes a compromising position because their customers don't want to have any information documented about them. So it's just like they're not able to like, it's not as safe, I guess,
I was going
is
to
the
say,
case to work
that
with
would
people
seem
who
less
want to keep
safe.
themselves anonymous or protected. Whereas if it's legal on both sides, then everyone can be out on the open is the argument. And just like,
Yeah.
you know, you could have a membership program. You can have, I don't know what you do. Honestly, I don't know these businesses that well. This was a whole
Punch
learning
cards.
experience for me. You could have
Yeah.
punch cards.
I mean, there probably is. It's like, that's so interesting, though. I didn't think about having one side of it legal. That's so wild.
Yeah. In Nevada, it's different. In Nevada, it's legal. It's both sides legal. That's not relevant, but it's only legal in licensed houses of prostitution or brothels.
Interesting. So this would be looking at just decriminalizing it on both sides? in Colorado?
Decriminalizing, period.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, I don't know. I feel like listeners probably know I'm down for legal sex work. I'm down for anything that creates a safe environment for consenting adults. I think those are the crucial parts here, right? Consenting adults.
A lot of what I've read about this it is around the safety of sex workers and creating an additional source of safety. And with so many people having to work in the shadows because they're so concerned about law enforcement and having to hide from law enforcement, a lot of things happen in those shadows that make it so
Right.
much less safe for them. So I'm very much in favor of safety for sex workers who are already generally extremely vulnerable members of the population. So anything that protects them, I'm all in favor of.
Yeah. Same.
And I think, are we going
'Cause
to
that's-
pretend that the work isn't happening anyway?
I mean, I feel like that's been happening for hundreds of thousands of
They
years.
do
There's
call it the
always
oldest
this.
profession, right?
Yes.
And so, but I wonder about what kind of zoning laws might happen, like how this might be carried forward. I think there are some interesting things about Nevada and the brothel and creating some sort of a container for this to happen in. Granted, I think that, if you've lived in the city a long time, what are the containers now, right? Alleys. There are so many different
My
places
impression is
where
most of this happens online.
a lot of it, yeah. And a lot of it there, of course, people meet in motels and hotels and et cetera. Colfax long had a history of being the stroll. There are a lot of things so whatever we were attempting to contain previously, I think that law enforcement was selective in how and where it was being contained. And so some of that has already been happening. But I think that putting more power and protection in the hands of sex workers makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. For Colorado. I mean, again, it happens everywhere. It's been happening. It's just a matter of who wants to talk about it, I think, in the open, especially as legislators.
Yeah, I think it's a big risk, and I think a lot of people are going to be furrowing their brows at it. But at the same time, I mean, I didn't know in my lifetime that I would see shifts in our laws and regulations around marijuana.
Yeah, I was thinking that too with the decriminalization of psychedelics too. It's like sort of one side of that is decriminalized, and maybe if we lead in those spaces, why doesn't Colorado try to lead in this other space with sex work?
Well, it feels very much
Interesting.
like the Democratic coalition that we've had for the last 10 years, that this is the kind of thing that they would go for. Just to, think about the politics a little bit. That's where I'm always at is, the Democrats that have controlled the three chambers of our state government, that coalition was formed based on shared support for gay marriage. This is the kind of the social issues are where they agree most. It's when you start getting into the economy and, the big affordability question, that's where you start to see the divide between the centrist Democrats and the progressive Democrats. So for me, I'm thinking this seems like exactly something like they would go for. Now, I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard the arguments against it. This Nick Hinrichsen guy says, like, wait till you hear the testimony of some of the folks that are going to come support this. That's when we're going to have the real debate, when the Republicans get a chance to sound off on their side of the culture war piece of this, and some of the real issues are going to come to light. And I'm very curious what that sounds like, because the arguments for it, I think you two have laid out very clearly. The arguments against it, I'm not as sure about them. I hadn't heard them as much.
I think we'll have to clutch our pearls collectively.
What are the arguments against it? Because also now I'm thinking about, sorry, really quick, you were just having me think about the coalitions politically. Is this like, if it's legal, can you make it a taxable income?
That was my take. Tax the ever-loving shit out of it. That's if you don't like it for some reason. I mean, we do that for all sorts of things. Weed is taxed like crazy. Like, if you want to move it around or put it in a box, like you were saying, a container, you could create tax exemption zones. You could tax it like crazy in some places and not other places. That's how you would control it. And that's how they will probably address some of these concerns that come up in this debate. Concerns like, does it actually increase sex trafficking is one thing.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, trafficking is a whole other conversation too. I mean, we're going to have that here, obviously, but I just want to make that so clear. Legal sex work and trafficking are two different things. And I would
But connected.
Right.
Because the organizations that offer sex work as a product, like, these are organizations that when it's in the dark, they're often linked to sex trafficking organizations. And
because when it's in the dark, you can exploit people.
And I've seen some people make the case that bringing it into the light actually increases it. There was this article I read from Janice G. Raymond, published in the Journal of Trauma Practice. She says that she found data that says in the year since lifting the ban on brothels in the Netherlands, 8 Dutch victim support organizations reported an increase in the number of victims of trafficking, and 12 victim support organizations reported that the number of victims from other countries has not diminished.
I have 2 thoughts here. One, when we bring something into the light, we see it more because now it is a space where people actually can see it, right? It's not that it didn't exist before. It's that there's maybe now a safe avenue to report those things. The other thing is, when we're talking about trafficking, we have to look at who is involved in this and understand that this is also something that happens with immigration. This is a pathway for a lot of folks to get somewhere, as they're promised something, and they have to do this, quote, kind of work to get there. And so I just think that this comment is, to me, feels a little bit, it just feels oversimplifying of what they're saying is the problem. Is, I would just say, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I would love to see more studies, and I think we don't want to correlations, not causation, and I'm very, very curious about how we've seen the impacts, and I think particularly in the 2 states that have decriminalized, like, how have they seen relationships between sex trafficking? Because I think that it could be both ways, like, people operating above board, like, what are we seeing, and in what ways are they more and less vulnerable? And I think that the exposure makes, to me, it seems like people are less vulnerable and they have more avenues to seek recourse and to be protected and to protect each other. And I think there are a lot of things that people can do and form bonds and unions even. Ooh, now we're really getting into it, right? There are a lot of different ways.
I don't know what that means. What are you talking about?
Like a sex workers union
Sex workers union.
Oh, a union of workers. Okay. Yeah, of course.
Because if it's legal, then you can create things like unions around it.
Yeah. And so really having an organized labor force that is also protected and more visible, I think makes a lot of sense. And I think overall, all of those protections could create more safety and more power for the sex workers and make them less vulnerable to being exploited.
I hope listeners call in and educate us, because there's so much to learn about this. Like, I just barely scratched the surface reading about it. I want people to call in and tell us what they think, if they got any experience with this, how they think it would change the work. 720-500-5418 is the number. Leave us a text, leave us a voicemail. I want to learn about this if we're going to have this debate about how the state could change, because it's fascinating.
I'd love to hear from sex workers. I'd love to hear from folks who have utilized sex workers, in as a customer capacity. You can be anonymous too. I would just love to hear from folks that actually interact with this economy, because I never have. So there's not much I know other than what I've heard from sex workers. But I would love to know more about what would they like to see. And also too, if you are a sex worker, if this was legalized, what are the other things that you think would need to be put into place or change for it to truly be safe. Well, give us a call, 720-500-5418. You can leave us a voicemail or text us. You can shoot us an email, denver@citycast.fm. Again, you can be anonymous. We would love to hear from you. Last thing we want to talk about, this wonderful documentary about an artist here from Colorado is it's nominated for an Oscar, right?
Yeah. Come See Me in the Good Light.
Yes, which is about the poet Andrea Gibson. Susie, this is your world. Andrea was a peer. I don't know how close you were, but I wondered how you felt watching this documentary.
Watching the documentary, I had to do in stages because even when Andrea was still living, anytime Andrea read a poem and we were in the same room, I was going to be in tears. I was going to turn into a puddle of tears, and that's been true for 20 plus years. So that was just the impact that their work always had. It was always so heartfelt. And so the documentary certainly captures quite a bit of that. And because it's, there's a personal grief associated with it. It takes little bits, but there's also, I'm so delighted that this documentary exists because it captures Andrea so fully and so thoroughly, particularly Andrea's sense of humor, which I don't know if that was as evidenced if you only know Andrea through the poems, the sense of humor is there, but not as fully there as Andrea was as a person. And so they were hilarious, and being able to see that. And so it's nice to have this place to visit, this living document, where you can really hear their voice and see their facial expressions. So it's heartbreaking and beautiful, and I do think it deserves to win. I think Andrea deserved all the flowers in life and beyond. I think Meg deserves the flowers, and I really hope that they win.
Yeah, it was. Paul, what did you think about this Andrea Gibson documentary?
Well, I wonder if people even know what this is and who this person is.
Sure.
So I can talk a little bit about Andrea Gibson. Was our Colorado State Poet Laureate at the point up until the end of their life. So they served a 2-year term. So Andrea Gibson was a rock star poet, very well known all around the world, touring for a very long time. I mean, and selling out venues, like a really, really well known performing poet. They did a lot of really cool work for a long time. They did a lot of work here in Denver, also in Boulder, working with Vox Feminista. There was a lot of different work that they did over the years. And then in 2021, they were diagnosed with cancer. And this documentary spends that's sort of their last days with them post-diagnosis, and following particularly the love story between Andrea Gibson and Megan Falley,
who's also a poet
and a writer. And yes.
That was interesting. That was a part I liked about the documentary, was their creative collaboration, the kind of feedback they give each other. Because my wife and I kind of have, like, I wouldn't say, sometimes tense, we have different ideas of what's good sometimes. And I love getting her opinion on stuff. And that was just the intimate look at their relationship and how it worked around their work was just special about this documentary. I loved that. And there was the moment where Andrea was reading something that Meg had written, and Meg had used the word octopoidal. Yes. And Andrea was like, I don't know what that word is. And Andrea, just being in general, like, I don't know a lot of words. Like, I know like 5 words, was so funny as a running gag the whole time. Like, they're this famous poet, and they don't know a lot of words. Like, yeah, that's someone who knows themselves. That's someone who knows what they do and what they're about. And I respect that. I really, really respect that.
I have to say, I had a little envy. I was a little envious of that relationship, in that as a writer, if you have a good editor that understands you, it changes the game so much. They see in your writing stuff that you don't see, that, they kill your darlings. They get rid of the things that you want to hold on to so tight that are like, no one else, this will resonate with no one. And I loved watching them go back and forth in that way. And I was like, man, this is a dream relationship for artists, is to have that person that understands you, but also will stand up to you. I mean, Andrea knew themselves very well, and Meg was very good at being like, this is ridiculous, or like, you need to get I loved seeing the creative process in that way between them.
Yeah, there's a very particular intimacy there that I don't personally think I could ever do.
I know, I'm a little selfish.
Typically,
have you ever had someone
artists,
like that?
We stay out of each other. I generally only date other artists, because who else do I know? but we stay out of each other's creative spaces, right? Like I get to see the finished work, they get to see the finished work, but we're not ever involved in like giving each other notes because there's just too much color in the relationship to do that. And I think it skews the way we see things. So I don't know that I would trust any of my intimate partners to give me notes on my work. And I
What
don't
about
want
like
them to.
what about like when you're developing an idea or like
No.
you're not even sure something's going to be a poem yet? If you're just like working something out, you don't have people like that?
I do have people like that, my writer friends, but not
Okay.
my intimate partners. I have a very, very
Okay.
dedicated writing group, and we meet weekly. This group has been meeting for over a decade now. We're very invested in each other's work. And so I do have people I do that with, and they're just not people that I share the rest of my life with.
Hmm.
That's so interesting. I sort of have this with my husband. It's a lot more of me, though. I've listened to every iteration from demo to first mix to master of every record he's ever put out. But he wants me to listen to it because I'll be honest with him and be like, the vocals are up way too high in this and I'm not hearing anybody else. Or, you know what I mean? Like, it's a fun process. And I know that he brings stuff to me because he trusts what I hear. But as for like the partnership myself, from a writing perspective, my sibling will edit my work from time to time, and that's probably one of the only people that I truly trust. But I've worked with other editors in the past who've just changed how I see my own work. But watching this between this intense love affair was just like one of the coolest things I've ever seen, that like just peeled back the process in a way that we don't think about often. When you look at the finished product of something you love so much, someone else had to go in there and cut out a bunch of it to make it really good. And I loved that the documentary gave us that. It wasn't just, I mean, because they're both creative people that make art. And
Right.
I didn't really know Meg before this. And now I'm like, damn, she's amazing too. It's wild when people
Meg's a phenomenal poet in her own right, for sure. And they're very, very different writers. And poetry, of course, is how they met and how they knew each other. And so I knew them very separately as individuals before they were partnered. And I think of them as very, very different writers. But I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think that being able to build with someone, and again, it's just a different level of intimacy that I, as a person, may never be ready for. Just with an intimate
watch someone else do it.
really like giving me notes. And also, I think it might have something to do with that I date men. And I think most of my work is extremely emotionally compelling. And most men are like, cool, babe. They're not really prepared to do the level of like emotional deep dives that my work typically asks for. So it's pretty rare. Though I do have a lot of wonderful men friends in my writing group that do give me wonderful like notes on craft and edits and et cetera. But they're not invested in me and in my life in the same way that an intimate partner might be. And so I think there are some unique things there that allow them to have a different kind of intimacy.
Yeah, this is a beautiful documentary. It's called Come See Me in the Good Light. You can see it on Apple TV. Again, it's up for an Oscar. Just a lovely.
It will make you laugh and will
piece.
make you cry.
Oh, yeah.
And definitely cry.
I have not cried that
Definitely
hard in a long time. The last 10 minutes of it, I just lost it.
I recommend watching it and then doing the double feature I did, which was Come See Me in the Good Light and then Tron Ares
Oh,
with
okay.
Jared Leto. Also very good.
Okay.
Compelling emotionally in a different way, explore different kinds of relationships. This between man and machine, also good,
Yeah,
great
you gotta
double
bring
feature.
it back. Bring it back.
Check it out.
Or you could watch it the way that I did, which was in doses, in scene by scene.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to walk away a couple times.
I have one more take on this.
Yes, go
Andrea
ahead, Paul.
Gibson, great taste in water bottles. They had a classic Nalgene, a sort of a faint orange, a translucent orange. It looked well worn. And then I couldn't, this take from Andrea, I agree with. I'm there for this. No stickers. No stickers on the Nalgene. I just want it to feel clean. Just want it to look sleek. Give me the classic Nalgene look. Loved it. Great water bottle, Andrea Gibson.
Andrea,
among
also
other things.
a true Coloradan. It's got the water bottle. You got to have the water bottle with you at all times. I mean, to be fair, their voice was everything they did, but that's a good observation, Paul. I like that. Well, Paul and Susie, thank you. This was so interesting.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been delightful chatting with you.
See you next time, Bree.
Hey, we're talking to Mayor Johnston this week. What do you want to know? Send us your questions on the What's Up Mayor Mike hotline at 720-500-5418. Again, you can text or leave us a voicemail at 720-500-5418. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why don't you take a minute to tell Erewhon owners Tony and Josephine Antoshi about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. And hey, thanks to our new neighbor, Megan C., who just joined our membership program. You can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Denver neighbor today at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you later.